Set in 1950, The Beautiful Land I Seek follows two determined Puerto Rican revolutionaries on a train from New York to Washington, D.C., as they discuss their plan to strike in the name of Puerto Rican independence. The play is on a limited run through December 29, 2024, at the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater. Playwright Matt Barbot joins us now to tell us more. Matt, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So before we get into the play, can you tell me a little bit more about you? I'm always curious to know, about people who, kind of work in this field and what kind of started them on that journey. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
I grew up here in New York City. I've lived in Brooklyn my whole life, and I started doing theater when I was in high school, which I think is true for a lot of people. I started acting. I auditioned for, the fall play one year, and stuck with it. And it really, it followed me through to college, and eventually I made the transition into writing because I finally wrote something without a role for myself in it, and realized I was having a lot more fun that way. So I've been writing plays ever since, and I'm excited to bring this one.
Now, what I love is that there's definitely, like we talk about, just the presence of Puerto Rico and, the two Puerto Rican revolutionaries being in the play. I'm always curious to know what inspired people to kind of use that real life background and kind of like put it in their work and their artwork. So can you explain what inspired you to kind of go on that path when we talk about playwriting?
Absolutely. A big reason I sort of transitioned into playwriting to begin with was just that I noticed there weren't a lot of roles and stories for people like me at the time being told on stage. That's changed. There's been a lot of sort of great progress on that front. I know that you've had playwrights Nelson Diaz-Mercano and Kristen Cato on the show before, who are wonderful and friends of mine. But for this particular story, I first learned about the historical event behind it, where Oscar Collazo and Griselio Torresola traveled to Washington, D.C. To attempt to assassinate President Truman, probably about 15 years ago. And I think one of the things that was really fascinating to me about it was how little I knew about it, and how little I heard about any of that in school. And I knew a little bit about some of the events that happened a couple of years later with Lolita Lebron storming Congress. And so it stuck with me for a long time, and I knew they took the train, and that seemed like a good way in. And I didn't really know what to do with it until Hurricane Maria. Until the unrest around Hurricane Maria, around feelings around the U.S.'s response. My own grandmother was displaced and passed away here in the United States instead of at home. And so there was a lot of, I think, feelings of suddenly like seeing this moment in a broad historical context that inspired me to like sit down and write a play that didn't just contend with this one moment, but winds up folding in a lot of history and a lot of art and a lot of other discussions about the U.S.'s relationship to Puerto Rico.
And with that, I want to talk about the title, The Beautiful Land I Seek, the juxtaposition between the title and then, what we hear that's going on in the play. Can you talk about what kind of inspired the title itself, and, overall tell us a little bit more about the play as well?
Absolutely, yeah. So the title actually comes from the Puerto Rican national anthem, La Borinqueña. The current version of it includes a line where that is how Columbus is said to have spoken of Puerto Rico when he landed on the shore. This is the beautiful land I seek, esta es la linda tierra que busco yo. And that struck me as really interesting, I think both because it's very complex. I think in thinking about our historical relationship to Christopher Columbus as a figure, as well as the idea of seeking better for a country and for a land, and the idea of sort of striving for something more beautiful out of life. And so I was really sort of struck by that image of what does it mean to seek a beautiful land. Columbus, obviously, like an explorer, and then these two revolutionaries who are also sort of seeking a beauty for their land in a different way.
Now, I also want to talk a little bit more about the characters. Can you give us a little bit of a background without giving too much away?
Sure, yeah. Well, the two main characters are Oscar and Grease, who are two Puerto Rican revolutionaries operating out of New York City, who are on the train to Washington, D.C. With this plan that they're going to assassinate President Truman. And they are resolved to die in the effort. As the train sort of progresses and they're waiting, basically, they're stuck on the train waiting, they begin to get into discussions about the intricacies of their plan and whether or not it will make a difference. And as they're having these discussions, they learn that the lock on their compartment is broken, and they begin to sort of be visited by figures from throughout history and art, including characters like Christopher Columbus, like Maria from West Side Story, by President Truman himself, because I wanted to sort of like find ways to sort of have these conversations and explore like the full breadth of history here. And so, the actors I think are doing a really phenomenal job, sort of inhabiting those roles, because it is, we have our two main, we have Bobby Roman and Alejandro Hernandez in the roles of Oscar and Grease, but also, Danny Colon and Ashley Marie Ortiz playing everyone else. And so it's been really an honor to have such hardworking actors, throwing on new costumes, coming out, interpreting different people. It's been really cool. It's been a really cool experience to work on that as well. And of course, Nate Betancourt appears as a character known as the writer, who is maybe more than a little autobiographical, but yeah.
Now, can you just explain what are some of the themes that people can expect to see when they go in to watch the play?
Sure. It's there's a lot going on in it, as you might have been able to tell from that list of characters. But I think largely it's a play that I hope, with lots of humor and sincerity, deals with questions of human dignity, of the ways that people can be driven to desperation, but I hope it also contains glimmers of hope. I hope people come to see it and leave knowing something more about this particular history than they came in with. I never want audience members to feel like they had to do homework or cram beforehand, right. Because and the fact that it's a little known history is definitely part of the play. I would say another theme is probably this idea of like what are we taught about American history and what aren't we, but I do hope people leave curious. I think one of my favorite responses to the play is I didn't know that. My second favorite response is I didn't know it was going to be funny. So, yeah. Now,
with that, where can people go to see the play, and how long is it going on for?
Absolutely. So the play is, our final performance is the 29th. We have a few days off around the holidays. And the play is going up at the historic Puerto Rican Traveling Theater at 47th Street and around between 8th and 9th Avenues. It's a landmark converted firehouse, which was made into a theater by Miriam Colon, and it's really an honor to be on that stage, to be working in a space where Raul Julia worked, where famous Latin playwrights came together to create new work. So I'm excited to be there, and I'd love to share the space with other people too.
Now, what I think is super exciting is that you kind of throughout your story, you know, expressed that you had interest in, you know, acting, and then it kind of transformed into writing. I'm curious to know, are there any other areas that you want to get into or that you have gotten into?
I mean, something that I really love about theater is how collaborative it is. So I love being in a room and working working very closely with actors and with directors. I think, and I think that we all have to do a lot of things. So I'm glad that this play is being directed by a longtime collaborator of mine, Jose Sayas, who I think is a wonderful dramaturg, which means that he's kind of like a mechanic. He really knows how to, like, what makes a play work, and he's and so this play has developed so much under his care. But you know, I'd love to. I think doing what he does is pretty cool. I'd love to maybe direct something someday, or you know, I've directed little things here and there, but not at quite at his level. Yeah, I think that's very fun. But I do think that everyone in theater sort of does a little bit of everything, and something that's been so great about working with this cast for so long is that you know, everybody's contributing so much. So, you know, rather than just having a couple of weeks of rehearsal and getting it up on its feet and feeling that rush, we're really able to deepen and explore. So actors are talking to me about the script and the writing, and you know, I'm offering insights into the directing, and Jose obviously putting pressure on the script. With this company, I think we've all sort of like deepened our practice and our craft, and have been stretching beyond our boundaries a little bit in exciting ways. So I hope we all expand into other roles as the years come by.
Well, with that, I want to thank you so much for joining us
Thank
and
you.
sharing a little bit of your creation with us here at BronxNet. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
For tickets to the play, please go to the website that you see on your screen below. We have to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Open after this.